All right, kia ora. Welcome to another episode of Find Your Front, New Zealand Rugby League's official podcast. We really thank you for joining us, and again, shout out to the One New Zealand Warriors for letting us use this amazing studio space. Pretty cool to be able to be here. I'm Cliff Thompson, Wellbeing Manager at New Zealand Rugby League. I'm going to throw over to this champ over here, introduce himself.
Yeah, talofa, kia ora. My name is Ale Matangila Titi, known as Ali.
Awesome, Ali. And, the show was called Find Your Front, and, while that's a rich and powerful rugby league term, Ali, maybe just give us a few words around what Find Your Front is in a rugby league context, but why we're calling it this for the show.
Yeah, rugby. Finding your front is rugby league term that we use in rugby league. Finding your front, get momentum, go forward, quick play the ball. So that's like pretty much like life. We go through some challenges. Sometimes when you're playing footy, you don't get that right play the ball. It's like in life too. So you go through some hard times, but I think what we're trying to say here is like when you're going through some hard times, we're hoping that you get to a point where you can find your front, get into a position where you're strong with the right connections, right support, and the right help. So, trying to find your front in whatever you do, whatever in life, whatever the highs and lows of life is, hopefully you can find your front.
Mean, bro. You should write a book. Thanks, Ali. With that being said, we're really excited today. We've got a really special guest, as all our guests are really special for their time, but also for not just what they've done, but who they are as people. And we're going to throw it over to our esteemed guest today, Paul Whatuira. Kia ora, brother. Thank you for being here with us. And to throw it off, to get to know a bit about who you are. Bro, who you are, where you come from, your whakapapa, if you want to go there and say hello and kickstart us.
Kia ora. Mauri ora koroa. Kia ora i te whānau. Ko Ngāti Kaununu te iwi, ko Tainu te iwi, no wane o mata ahau, ko Paul Whatuira toku ingoa. Kia ora whānau, my name is Paul Whatuira and I come from Wane o Mata, a small, awesome town down in Lowell Hutt of Wellington, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you awesome gentlemen today. Kia ora, brothers.
Kia ora.
Sure, bro. And us having you here, we obviously want to talk about a few things. The show was about sort of well-being, wellness and all that sort of stuff, and we'll get to that in a moment. But let's go back to the beginning, bro. We know you represented New Zealand and you played in the NRL, and we'll talk about winning those titles, the elusive titles that not many get to do.
The rings, bro.
But yeah, maybe if you want to start us off, bro, your background, where you came from, your upbringing in Wainui, how you got into the great game of rugby league.
From the beginning, it was a long time ago, different hairstyle back then too. As mentioned, I'm from Wane o Mata. Rugby league was in the whānau. My father played for the Randwick Kingfishers back in the Lion Red Cup days.
Not Wainui Mata.
Pardon?
Not Wainui Mata.
Not Wane o Mata, unfortunately. But he luckily got me into the club alongside my brother. But I was just brought up with league. My dad was able to play in 5 Lion Red Cup grand finals against Otahuhu, Northcote, yes. And I'm not sure what the other one is. But unfortunately, they lost 5.
Right.
They lost their grand finals back in the 80s alongside Kevin Tamati and Sammy Stewart, Kiwi legends at that time. Yeah. So I was just brought up with rugby league. And Wane o Mata, we had a lot of awesome athletes come through. Billy Wepu, Piri Wepu, the Lomax, whānau. So rugby league was embedded in our bloodlines. That's what we did, is play rugby league. And unfortunately, we didn't do too well at school. But through rugby league, I was able to learn some important values and tools that I've implemented into life after football as well. And that is working as a team, communicating with the team, but also putting in the hard work and dedication behind the scenes. So very grateful to be a part of the rugby league whānau in Wane o Mata.
Yeah, awesome, bro. And just on that, like you mentioned, obviously it was your whānau that played, was in the family, right, as part of your DNA. But what was it about rugby league for you personally that drew you to the game? Why of all the, because, we live in New Zealand, rugby's a big thing. It's big, it's big in Wellington as well, but why rugby league of all sport you could have played?
Rugby league, I was a shy Māori boy. I didn't really talk much at school. I was extremely shy. But rugby league, I was able to make friends. I was able to compete. I love to compete, and I still do, but not at that level, obviously. And it was just a way to express myself, and the rugby league field gave me that opportunity to do that.
To do that,
Yeah, and I've just I like I said before, you can learn so much important tools with rugby league, and I was able to achieve some good success later on in my years. But rugby league is a beautiful game.
Yeah.
And some athletes may not make the pinnacle, but I'm sure when they catch up with their friends 10 years, 20 years down the track, you always have that those memories that you've made with your teammates.
That bond, that connection.
The bonds.
Yeah.
I know we talk about playing at the highest level, but coming through the grades and all that, and I'm sure you've had some friends that have could have made it. What do you reckon are some of the things that you did different that probably put you in good stead to make the to like forge out a real good career like what you did now?
Hard work. I was never the most talented athlete in my teams, and I was lucky at the age of 10 to 12. I had a little bit of experience in boxing, so with boxing taught me some pretty important lessons to how to look after yourself and prepare yourself in that discipline. And I took that into my rugby league career. So I was never the highlight reel player, but I was a good listener, and I was able to put in that hard work, and I never made no New Zealand representative sides to the under 18s.
Right.
So it was just continuing that belief and having a tolerance to failure, and being able to learn from those failures and push through and getting up again and again. And by doing that, I was able to finally get noticed by the Warriors at the age of 18. So I went from...
Yeah, it's cool, because that's what I want to talk about next, is this pathway here. We're sitting in this room. Keep going, bro. Like that pathway there, how did that come about, and what was that experience like?
It was a beautiful experience. As a young boy, getting a contract for the New Zealand Warriors at the age of 17, it was like, wow. Although it probably wasn't as much as what the players are getting now, deservedly so. It was an opportunity. Yeah. And at the age of 17, I moved from Moniomata into Tamaki Makaurau. Wow, what a big move that was. And I remember one training session with you, actually, Ali. We had a one-on-one competition, and I couldn't touch you, mate. You're too lethal with both feet. I couldn't stop you.
You're too nice. That's me. You're too nice.
But it was definitely an experience out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And I had a 13-year career, but that preseason was, in my opinion, the most toughest preseason that I've had anyway.
True.
And so let's talk about your debut in the NRL. What was that like? You again, boy from Wainuiomata, signed contract 17 years old, and then you're playing with some of these guys, and then you go and make your debut. Can you recall that moment, what that was like?
Killed it.
Well, I played 3 minutes. It happened extremely quickly. Mark Graham, the coach at the time, round 2, offered me an opportunity to travel with the first grade team to Sydney. He said to me, "Hey, Fats, you've had a really good preseason. You played good in the trials. I'm just going to bring you over to Sydney for a week just to get a feel of what it's like being on tour with the boys. Just enjoy yourself. You're not playing, but just support the boys." So, okay, here we are. First time staying in a 5-star hotel, eating all this beautiful extravagant food. I was having steak fillets, pizza, pasta, you name it. I was smashing it. I think I probably put on about 4 kilos in 2 days.
Who are you rooming with?
I was rooming with Monty Betham, actually.
Wow. Shout out to Monty.
That guy, he can eat, eh?
Well, he actually... Well, man, look at him. He's a specimen. He looked after me because 3 hours before kickoff, here I am thinking I'm on a holiday. Mike Graham taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, Paulie, you're playing. Strap up." 3 hours before the game. So I went back to my room. I'm nervous as hell, and Monty was really good to me, just helped me remain calm. You'll be okay. Gave me that positivity that I needed for a 17-year-old just about to make his debut, and just been told 3-4 hours before the game that I'm playing. So we played against the West Tigers. I only played 3 minutes, but mate, I was buggered in there 3 minutes. I think I made like 4 tackles, didn't touch the ball. It was definitely
experience.
Inexperience for my debut.
How ironic was that? Oh, I played with West Tigers and then
Played West Tigers. We lost in the last 2 minutes. Owen Craigie did a chip, caught it, and ran 60 metres to score the try. We lost 16-17. Yeah.
West Tigers legend. Fuck, crazy.
Yeah, crazy that, eh? And going back to that moment, you said obviously you hear, you find out, and you mentioned a little bit of nerves, a little bit of nervousness.
A lot of nerves.
Yeah, a lot of
Lots
nerves. What was it in that helped you calm those nerves? If you can think back, I know you mentioned Monty was encouraging and gave you some words of advice, but in that moment, you've got to run out. You know, you're in that moment. You're in your body. There's got to be something, in your physiological state or mentally. What was it that helped you make that debut and get out there, even if it was only 3 minutes?
So pastas and pizzas,
Of course. Yeah, they're 5 kilos heavier. I'll tell you what. I actually played in the second row too. I'm normally a centre in the wing, but he put me in the second row. Never played second row before. Anywho, that's another story. With nerves, and I'm sure you're the same, Ali, we always feel nervous before games. And I learned this as a young kid. Boxing, actually, as a 10-year-old, is learning how to control those nerves. It's a part of the process. And as long as you put in the work, they should give you full confidence to go out there and just execute what you've practiced. And I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah.
And that goes with rugby league in my debut. Although it was a different arena, it went extremely fast and it was only 3 minutes. It's all about taking those opportunities and just having that confidence that you put in the work, and then you can go out and play your 3 minutes for your debut and then think you're the man, but you're not.
Well, in saying that, in a lot of ways, you probably are the man, bro, because you went on to have this amazing NRL career where you won a couple of titles with 2 different clubs. You want to talk us through, and I know that in itself is a bit of a journey, how you sort of journeyed to those clubs where you won those titles, and what was that experience like?
Did you bring your rings? You normally carry them,
I actually, no. I gave the first ring to my father, who wears it around Wani or Mata, like if he had won the grand finals, and the other one's just tucked up at home.
That's why he didn't win the 5s, so he was waiting for that one. See? Smart man.
Yeah. So very, very grateful, extremely grateful to be a part of 2 premiership winning teams, and I know having friends and players who are way better than me not have the opportunity to play in a grand final, let alone win one. It is special. And you don't actually understand the significance of winning a grand final until years later when you've retired and when everything's said and done.
Look back.
And you can look back and reflect on how special it was. But it didn't come like that. I said before, tolerance to failure. I was cut by 2 NRL teams before I made my start at the Panthers.
Wow.
I moved from the Warriors and I went to the Melbourne Storm for a year, and it wasn't that I was a bad boy. It wasn't that I did anything wrong. I just had better players in front of me. I just wasn't good enough to be playing first grade for the Warriors and for the Melbourne Storm at that time. Moving to the Melbourne Storm, though, it was a great education for me. I had 1 year at the Warriors, moved to Melbourne, and deep down I always wanted to play in Australia. As we all know, at that time, not so much now because the Warriors are going bloody awesome. The Australian Rugby League teams were at the top level, and Melbourne Storm, they won their premiership within their second year. So they had a winning culture, they knew how to win, and they knew how to prepare themselves on and off the field. And that year at Melbourne Storm was what I believe was my education to what it takes to be a professional athlete and be consistent in your performances. And I only played 6 first grade games, but it was the lessons that I learnt off the field, watching Stephen Kearney, Richard Swain, Matt Urua at that time, Taura Neko, how they conducted themselves professionally was the biggest lessons I learnt. And although I had to move from the Melbourne Storm a year later, it just made me more hungry and determined to make it. Right. So being cut just really ignited a flame in me that I'm going all out. I'm 20. I've got no club that wants me, but I believe in me. Yeah. And I had to relocate to Queensland. Again, blessed because I went back to play for the Melbourne Storm theatre club team, which at that time had Cameron Smith, had Billy Slater. Wow. We lived next to the same apartments. So although we were still on part-time contracts, so luckily we didn't have to work. we trained at night time. I was training with Cameron Smith and Billy Slater throughout the day, and Cooper Cronk,
crazy.
who at that time were part-timers, but they were hungry too. And I surrounded myself with those awesome gentlemen who are now legends of the game.
Sure.
And we trained through the day, and then went and trained with our team at the night time.
So that's the reason why they became legends, eh? Because
I think it's the other way around. I made it because I was training with those guys, and they flickered the winning ingredients.
Wow, bro,
that's amazing, eh?
Yeah,
I was just saying because I know everyone hears the highs of our players and watch them on TV, and then you talk about your challenges. I don't know what was the mindset. I know you talk a little bit about your mindset. What do you reckon? Kind of was there like any other stuff that kind of helped you along, like maybe a great network of support? Maybe your culture, identity kind of helped you out. I don't know. Was there any other things that kind of helped you along the way, especially getting through some challenges?
At that time in my young life of 1920, family support, obviously. I used to call them up with my mum and dad and speak to them regularly. As for the culture front, it probably wasn't there at that time. I lived in Australia, and when you live in Australia, there's different cultures, a different system, and you tend to lose your sense of identity. But for me, my passion was rugby league. I was all in, and I was willing to run 50 Ks if my coach told me to run 50 Ks. And for me, it seems a bit too much. I felt I put too much pressure on myself to succeed, and my mentality at that time, which now looking back and reflecting, I needed that mentality to make it. But I had an internal belief, which is not true, that I couldn't go home to Wainuiomata if I'm not a success. And if I don't play first grade, and although that's, you look at it now, it's a bit of a sick mentality. I guess I had to have that to be able to make it.
It was your internal strength, that got you.
I love that, bro. We all got internal strength. We all got mana. It's just about directing it in the right direction. And I this is the whakaaro that I believe in is, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So go back to the league front, because we trained hard. I had good trainers with me. It was the fourth rounds. The Penrith Panthers were in town playing the Broncos. And in Queensland, there was only one TV game per weekend, and luckily this round was us and the Brisbane North Devils. I can't remember exactly who we were playing against. It was a TV game, and I had a good game. Scored a couple of tries and played a good game. And then that night, Shane Richardson, who was the CEO at the time, gave me a call. Can you come to my hotel, please, tomorrow? I'm staying at the Holiday Inn. I said, I'll see you there. So I hung up my phone. I drove to his apartment, walked into his room. He already had the contract on the table. I didn't even look at the number sign. And all I read was opportunity. So he signed me up. I'm out of here.
Wow.
So I signed up and moved to the Panthers a couple of days later. So
crazy.
Yeah, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
I think it speaks to Paulie as well, the ability to the hard work that creates opportunities. And then when the opportunities come, you're ready and you take them. And then I also appreciate too the honesty that you have around, there probably were there's some drive there that's healthy and good, but there was also some things in there that you felt, probably looking back retrospectively, aren't the healthiest mindsets to have all the time and in every facet of life. And so leapfrogging from there, you sign and then you play for Penrith, and we obviously know the story for those that do anyway, that you go on and you win a premiership, right? So I want a sort of two-part question here. What's that like for a guy that will never step foot on an NRL field in that capacity as a player to win a premiership? And then for those that have never won one, what is that like? But then is there another side to it? Is there the sort of coming down off that? Because you have this amazing high of not just being a professional athlete, but then winning at the top level. Can anything match that? What are the struggles coming down from that, something like that, and the challenges, and how might someone mitigate that?
Yes, definitely a beautiful experience to play in the grand final, let alone win one. And with every high, there are lows. And I guess the lows are, you think you're better than who you are. I'm just going from my own personal experiences. People start saying awesome things about you, but then you start to believe it, that you're better than what you're not, and then the competitiveness is with other teams. You're a target. Every team that plays against you the following year, they're out to prove a point. So that's why I have so much respect to the Panthers. They've gone back to back, and that's hard to do in these times of professional sports. So for me, my personal journey was, I thought I was better than what I was. I got carried away of thinking that, as I'm sure I'm not the only athlete that's gone through that, you tend to, because you're high and mighty, apparently, you tend to think that people, you deserve things.
Sure.
And I got carried away a little bit, to be pono, but that's the lessons that I learnt, and
it's awesome,
and definitely it's about keeping that balance now. And but the positive things are you're connected with your brothers for the remainder of your lives, and the special memories.
Because it is
beautiful.
rare, eh? Like not many get to win at that level, and it does. I suppose it really forges a bond, and you got to experience it twice. You want to talk to us a little bit about?
It happened really quickly at the Panthers. Like I said before, I'd just been cut by 2 NRL teams, and a year later, here we are winning the NRL Grand Final. And what I do remember at that time, we just had fun. There's no pressure on us. We had a great coach, John Lang. He probably wasn't the most tactical coach, but he made us believe, and that's the big difference. And I can see similar values from our awesome coach Webster doing with the Warriors boys. They're believing. The effort's there. They're turning up for everyone, and that's what you need to have a successful season.
Yeah, but you're right. As Cliff said, you won it once and then you win it twice after all the challenges that you went through, unwanted, probably for, any player out there or even anyone that's listening in, because that's life, eh? Sometimes you don't make it or you make it. The way you kind of came back, and then just your mentality, I think, how positive you went, you turned it into a positive. And I think that's quite a few learnings from, for people that are watching in, because young ones that are coming through the grades. I think that's amazing. And also, touching on what you said about, believing in yourself and also on their high. But sometimes that's the media, that's the people around you, your could be peers, but also, the news, the papers, now social media, it's not easy, sometimes you definitely have to believe in yourself, but also kind of think that you're the best, which is good, but also, that riding that wave too much, I think, you're on cloud 9. Sometimes you need to come back down, but what are some of the stuff that you kind of did to actually, come back to reality and
level yourself?
Yeah, level yourself, yeah.
And great question, Ali. We need that level of balance to maintain to keep your feet grounded. And I spoke earlier about, at that time, I don't think I had culture within my lively day-to-day life. It was, and you can lose yourself in Australia. Australia's a big city.
Yeah.
And although I wouldn't say I got up to not too much, not that I got up to mischief, or not that I did made bad choices or decisions. It was just that I didn't have my whānau around me, and I didn't have my culture. I didn't have the people that I needed at that time. It gets lonely in Sydney when you're on your own. You're a single man and trying to make your way in a big city in Sydney, coming from Wainia or Mata. And when you isolate yourself, you become toxic. Your thoughts become toxic, and so.
Because, bro, can I just jump in there? That's interesting, man. Because you can be in this game, which is a social game. You play in a team, in a big environment, lots of friends, in a big city with hundreds of thousands of people, and yet still feel isolated. How do you think that happens for an individual? And I mean, I know you're only speaking from your experience, but how can you? Because where I'm leading is, I know this happens for many people. You can have a lot of friends or a lot of acquaintances, but still feel like you're isolated or alone, or just no one quite gets you, or you're just not connected to some of the things, whether it's culture or identity. But for you, how does that happen, and how might someone, when you reflect back, get through that?
That's why your work, both of your work in the wellbeing space is critical. It's so important. I love the mahi that you both do. Our players need that support on and off the field. So I total the both of you with the great work that what you do. And again, I'm a big believer. It's not my kōrero, but if the player is living a happy life off the field, everything else will take its due course on the field.
Yeah.
Their off field well-being space, which you two do amazing work in, is it's critical. It's important.
Yeah, but also like as a player, it's like I don't know if this is a good comparison, but it's like being on a high with a drug, and then the adrenaline that you get playing,
I wouldn't
and
I wouldn't know that.
I guess, and then you stop, and then there's a void to kind of feel. I don't know if it's like that, but for some players that are kind of retired and finished up, I think that's the kind of stuff you miss. Obviously, the banter and the camaraderie in the change rooms, but also that high that you get, playing. It's some people's it's their safe place. They go and express themselves, like But what do you think? I don't know. Is that the feeling you go through, and maybe for a player, for someone that's played in their high performance?
Of course, I believe that most, if not all, professional athletes in all sports go through that transition of trying to find ways to fill that void, that dopamine hit. It's hard to explain, but running out to 20,000 plus people every week, running out in front of 80,000 people in the grand final. You played in the grand final. You've won a few over in England too, bro, which is I was never able to do. It's how can you fill that void? But it took me a while to process it, and my transition phase into life after football was tough. I'm not the only one that's gone through it. I have teammates that are still struggling now to find another positive dopamine hit to continue their life. So it's a touchy subject that I don't want to upset anybody, and that's why the match fit that you're on, brother, and these get-togethers with your former team is so important to be able to stay connected. And still be in each other's lives.
Awesome.
You just got to try and find other ways to fill their void, and for me it's having a coffee every morning. So thank you, Ali. Big shout out to Ali for running down to the cafe and getting me a coffee.
It's Cliff and
servant, man. He's a servant.
100%.
But it's just finding those little positive endorphin hits throughout your day. That make you happy. And for me, it's going to the playground with my son and having that one-on-one time with him. I still love to train. I don't train for an hour and a half, but I might train for 10, 20 minutes every morning, but that makes me feel good. So it's all about getting those positive endorphin hits throughout your day that gets you through, and then it becomes a habit.
Yeah, bro. And I sort of want to lead to that because we'll maybe veer a little bit toward that post-career stuff in a moment. You talked about your family and you're working out, and then we want to ask a bit about what you're doing outside of that. But to segue us to that is, in both your premiership winning teams, you had some Kiwi connections there. We know some famous Kiwis that you played with as well. Some, with both at the Panthers and at the Tigers, some legends. But we want to talk about that Kiwi connection, because then you represent New Zealand as well. What was that like, not just playing with your brothers in those NRL squads, but then making your debut for the Kiwis and representing your country and your whānau on that level?
And also you played for the Māoris too, eh?
Played one test match for the Māoris. You had to bring that up.
I was saying, man.
World Cup, we played against Samoa. We got our butts kicked. Yeah, so thank you, bro.
I didn't know that, man.
That's why you asked today. You wanted to see that result.
Bro, talking about the Kiwis.
Beautiful experience. As a young kid, I didn't want to be an All Black. I wanted to be a Kiwi.
Wow.
And to be able to play at that level against Australia was my first test match with Sonny Bill Williams there, and Ruben Wiki, the great captain. I still call Ruben Wiki my captain now. Whenever I see him, I say, yo, captain. That's just a respect thing, and the mana and the respect that I hold for Ruben. Very grateful, extremely grateful to be able to put on that Kiwi jumper, and obviously for every other Kiwi, when the Kiwis do well on the field, it gives us great pride, and definitely a Kiwi through and through.
Yeah.
Get you. I'm sure there was some parties at Wainuamata, man, on that day.
Oh, yeah, not
Oh, sorry,
going
is it
to chuck my brothers in the boat, but we had a few parties back in the day. But the thing about Wainua Mata, Billy Whippu, and us, amongst others, we looked after each other.
Yeah.
So, you're young, you can still have a good time.
And
as well.
even to this day,
Which
like
we did.
even to this day, we were down in Wellington recently for the High Water round, and just a beautiful community and the work that they're doing there. So shout out to Wellington Rugby League for all the efforts they're making to ensure that well-being is at the forefront, that our people are cared for, and obviously that's where you come from. So yeah, bro, you represent the Kiwis, you represent New Zealand, and we talk about post-career. What's Paulie up to these days?
Internal strength.
Yeah, and you can tell us about your amazing kaupapa, which is internal strength. But maybe before you get to that, family?
Whānau is everything. Ko te whānau te mea tōtahi, family comes first. I am a father. I have 2 beautiful children. I have Gabrielle Kaya. She's my kotiro. She's 13 years old. Nice. And our son, Tamati, he is 2, running the house.
Yeah, and, as they do.
As they do. And my stepdaughter, Tiana, and obviously my beautiful partner, Trina. Definitely loving whānau, loving whānau time, and just trying to learn as a father.
Yeah.
And to be there to support them. I don't get it right all the time.
Yeah.
But I do my best to turn up every time and try and be there for my whānau, because they are everything.
Yeah.
With work, I am the director of internal strength. He mana o roto. We've got a small, awesome team of leaders, of facilitators who go out there and deliver our content. It's a 5-day wānanga with 12 modules. It's a mana enhancement program that teaches the values to keep our tangata healthy and well. So we're based up here in Auckland, Wellington, and we're just about to get into the Hawke's Bay region, which is great. I love to inspire people and to motivate people, but it keeps me in check too.
Yeah.
If I'm not preaching it, you can get caught out. So it's
massive,
it's beautiful mahi. It's important, and our people need that support out there, because we unfortunately, with the statistics, when it comes to Pacifica Māori, we are at the bottom of the table with data to suicide, to diabetes, to mental health issues, to poverty, and we're just trying to do our best to uplift the mana of our people.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome, bro. And thank you for the work that you do, Paulie. Like, it's important, man. It's special, and I know, having sat with you and talked with you about it, like, I mean, that's not just why we're here doing this podcast, but we know that there's a lot of work that we can partner on and do as well, because we just want our people to be well and to have that internal strength and to move through. So, yeah, man, if you're out there and you're thinking about this and you're hearing what we're talking about here, go and check it out. What Paul Whatuira is up to. Really, really powerful, really, really special with internal strength.
I thought Cliff was going to say, hey, because talking about fathers, he's got it all, man. He knows all the answers there.
Nah, bro, stop it.
The daddy of the year, man.
you got a.
Here we go.
You got a big tribe, don't you, brother?
I do, but this guy's the same, man. He's got just as many.
This guy. He runs
the
tight
kettle
ship,
calling, what is it? Pot calling the kettle black? Nah, but honestly, bro, I've got one last question for you, because we appreciate your time, Paulie, and we appreciate what you've said and what you've shared. But the question is, the show is Find Your Front, and you've actually answered it throughout your kōrero, but to bring us home, to land it, what are 1 or 2 things that you are consciously aware of from a wellbeing perspective, and if we were to use the word language, Find Your Front, but what are the 1 or 2 things that you do consciously now that you know keep your well-being in check and good and healthy?
Apart from looking at your rings every day, you know what I mean?
Karaka te mātou, karaka te Māui. Living, we must live our life in balance spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So I try my best to, it's a hard one finding that balance when you've got whānau and your mahi is in demand. I try my best to find that balance in those three areas. And me aroha koe, kia koe anō, loving yourself. And we're only humans. Humans make mistakes, but values and principles remain strong throughout the storm. So it's just a matter of that continuous effort to letting yourself off the hook when you've made a mistake, and learning the lesson and moving forward, and also to taking care of yourself, that kindness that you need to give to yourself. Because as humans, we put too much demand on ourselves. We're the most critical at ourselves, looking in the mirror. And as first graders, as in rugby league, when things ain't going well, you criticise yourself, but you need to be on your own side to get through those trials and tribulations and get through. So just being kind to yourself,
Awesome, bro.
and loving yourself.
Amazing.
Well, Paul, thank you so much, brother, for your time, for your the way you carry yourself, for what you do in our community, and for sitting down with us here today, bro. We really, really do appreciate it. Paul Whatuira, I'm Cliff Thompson. This is the legend himself, Ali Lawatiti, and this is us finding your front.
I know.
Kia ora.
Cheers, brother.
Thank you.